Hey guys, and welcome to the Learning Droid, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide for British Sign Language. So, as with all the Beginner's Guide series, guys, this is something I'm a beginner at, and this is my guide. So, a while ago I did British Sign Language Level 1, and I was interested in doing British Sign Language because I was interested in teaching martial arts to students with hearing impairment. Unfortunately, due to this issue and that issue, I didn't actually continue after level 1. I finished level 1 successfully, and unfortunately it's a bit expensive to travel on to level 2 at the moment. But I thought what I'd do is I'd do a beginner's guide, because I've been having a discussion with a few people on a couple of different websites, including Facebook, about starting British Sign Language. And one of the things that's a big barrier to starting is that the early courses are quite expensive. And it depends on where you are and who's doing the course, but it ranges anything from £170, £180 to £400, £500 even for the early courses, which is quite remarkable. And a lot of people are worried about learning unsuccessfully, about taking a course and not being successful. So a lot of people want to learn sign language a little bit at their own time, a little bit at their own pace, and practice a little bit before they go lessons. I wanted to do the same. I bought a couple of books which I thought were very good. I have to say some of the books I bought weren't good at all. Some of them were very good. I also did some study online on YouTube and things like that. So what I thought I'd do was I'd do a beginner's guide and basically have a look at the sort of things that you'd be expected to learn. The early section of this guide is really going to focus heavily on fingerspelling. Fingerspelling is the ABCs of sign language. In British Sign Language we use A, B, C, D, E, F, G, same as when writing, exactly the same as English. The grammar's a little different, and you'll often notice if you go onto British Sign Language groups that they actually write in the grammar of British Sign Language. So the writing can be a little bit hard to read at times because the grammar's different. However, early on you don't have to worry too much about that. And when it comes to fingerspelling, you should never fingerspell sentences. Fingerspelling is for words that you don't know a sign for, or for names, or for getting specific bits of information across. However, it's also one of the sort of base skills. Because of course, if you don't know a sign, you fingerspell it, and 9 times out of 10 the deaf person you're talking to will give you the sign for that. Or if you do a sign and someone else doesn't know it, you can fingerspell it. A couple of things I've learnt sort of through sign language that we're going to have a look at and have a sort of little chat about and things as we go on is to do with placement. And sign language is a visual language, it's not a spoken language, and because of that, a lot of the little words we use in spoken languages to do with positioning and placement can be replaced simply with positioning and placement. For instance, picture over a fireplace. We would say there's a picture over the fireplace, but in sign language you'd simply do the sign for fireplace and then the sign for picture, and you'd put the sign for picture above the sign for fireplace. There you go, you've got a picture over the fireplace. It's all to do with placement and things like that. So one of the things I did notice talking about with people is that fingerspelling is one of the first things people want to learn. It is the base unit. It reminds us all of when we were learning English. We did ABCs in class when we were learning to write. It's one of the base sort of skills for anything, is to do the ABCs. And so fingerspelling is something a lot of people want to do. But unfortunately, a lot of fingerspelling you see online is done from this perspective. So I would be fingerspelling to you. Yeah? The problem with that is people find out that when they've been practicing fingerspelling, they often end up doing it very close to themselves and sort of turned in, because what they're expecting is they're expecting to see that, or they're expecting to see that. Because they're expecting to see that, they do this. But that's not what you need, because it's a language you have to communicate to other people. It has to be positioned correctly, it has to be facing out. So I thought what I'd do for fingerspelling is I'd do the ABCs, A through to Z, fingerspelled in this perspective, and then what I do is I do another video with it flipped around. So basically the camera, I'll place the camera here, or stand behind the camera while it's set up on there, and I'll actually do the fingerspelling so that you can see it from my perspective. You can see what it looks like to me to be fingerspelling through the alphabet. Then we'll do, as I've done previously, if you go back into my playlist you'll actually find previous playlists for this, some fingerspelling practice, some fingerspelling reception practice, and then we'll do some other bits and pieces. And we'll do some basic sign sets and some basic signing. And I'll talk a little bit about what I learnt during my Stage 1 course. And that gives you an idea of what's there in the Stage 1 course, what you'd be expected to learn. And it'll give you an idea of whether or not you want to invest the money in doing that. Because it is expensive, guys. I'm not going to lie, it was shocking when I found out how expensive it was. My level 1 course I think was 350, 375, something like that. I know it was so much money that I couldn't take it out of the ATM. I had to go in and request it from the bank. So it was actually above my daily withdrawal from the ATM because I paid in cash. A lot of places do payment plans, but it's still that price in the end, and I can understand why a lot of people don't want to invest that much. I think it's worth it, guys. Anything like this, any skill at all, you should have a proper instructor for. I do these beginner guides to give people ideas, to give people information, not as a way of teaching people. So this isn't a class on how to do sign language. I mean, I'm only a level 1 signer. You should go and learn sign language from a signing instructor. But this gives you an idea, this gives you some information, this gives you some help, and it gives you something to draw on if you're practicing on yourself, by yourself. Now, I just wanted to add on the end of this video, I was chatting on Facebook with a young woman. She has had a slight problem dealing with a certain signing situation. She has a relative who signs, but due to medical conditions can't lift their arms up to reach their head very easily. They can at a push, but it's painful and exceedingly difficult for them. And this relative wanted to sign unicorn, and unfortunately the sign for horse, long face, and the sign for unicorn, horn on the head, were both head-based signs. Now, I'm not an interpreter, I'm not anything beyond a level 1 signer, but I have read in plenty of books about basically what they call ad hoc signing, making up signs on the spot. And a lot of books have a lot of information on this. One specific book had information on this specifically for doctors, was if you don't know a sign, you can make one up. Fingerspelling, brilliant, you can fingerspell it, but you can also make up an ad hoc sign, especially if you're going to be using the word over and over again. If I was going to be using the word unicorn over and over again, but I didn't know the sign for it and I kept fingerspelling unicorn, it would be quite awkward because I'd have to fingerspell unicorn every single time I wanted to do it. And fingerspelling is more awkward than signing, it takes longer, it's more difficult to both read and to do. So I recommended that she use a bit of ad hoc signing. So basically the ad hoc signing, you usually fingerspell it first, and then after you've fingerspelt it you show your ad hoc sign. So my recommendation was horse riding, which is this. So I've got my rider sitting on my horse and they're riding. And then after that, leave the horse there, fingers on the horse's head to make a horn. So you've got unicorn. And this is actually very much to do with placement, guys. Placement is very much about this shows you what it is. It's a horse. The horse stays there. So this is the placement element. And I go to the head of the horse and do a horn. It's the same with, you put the book over there, and then when you're talking about the book, if you were talking about something specific like a book or a chest of drawers or something like that, you do the sign for it, put the sign somewhere, and then point at it as you were signing. That's what I'm talking about there, even though it's not actually there. So it's actually a very visualization based thing in language. So guys, this is going to be a new beginner's guide, and I hope you enjoy it. See you in the next video.